Welcome back to Brick and Brand. We're your co-hosts, Delaney and Bretley. How you doing, girlfriend?
Hello. Long time no talk.
I know. I feel like we've been a little bit out of the swing of things. We haven't recorded in like 2 weeks. Is that right?
I
That's a long
know.
time for us.
The holidays kind of put us out of our normal routine. I am recording from a different location today for anyone who's watching this. You'll see the background is a little bit different. I'm in Park City today, and we just got back from another whirlwind crazy trip to New York. So we are so glad to finally have a few minutes to breathe with the holidays.
I know. I can't believe it's the end of the year. I feel like I'm still in denial. It's crazy how fast this year went by, and the fact that it's almost January is insane, but New York was easily one of the highlights of my year. I thought that
It was the
trip
perfect
was
way to,
amazing. Truly.
it
I
was
had
so wild.
such a good
I
time.
know.
Nothing gets you more in the Christmas spirit than being in New York. And then the fact that all three of us girls, sisters, got to be together was unreal.
It was amazing. I was there for ICSC, which is our annual big convention. I think I've mentioned that before, but this is my second year going, and honestly, it's so great, but it's so physically exhausting. It's like you're performing on a stage for probably 18 hours in a day, and you're doing it all in heels, which is a feat that most people do not know how difficult that is, but I did not even know that Delaney and my other sister Liberty and my dad were coming, and they booked their trip at the same time as me, so we're able to turn it into kind of a work and pleasure trip, and it was just absolutely epic. We'll never forget all the memories that we have.
Yeah, Bretley was closing deals, and me and Liberty were just taking cute photos and eating hot dogs off the little trucks on the street. No, but mad respect that you went to ICSC in New York. That is, I know, I haven't been to the New York one, but I know how difficult ICSC is. And on top of it being in like 30-degree weather, complete snow,
So
blizzard
cold.
weather
Yeah.
is insane. I remember texting you going like, "What are you wearing? Do you still wear
Mhm.
heels? Are you wearing" I just couldn't even fathom the fact that you were like gonna have to be dressed up in business meetings in
Right.
that
Because 'Cause you're
condition
so cold.
and you're
Yeah.
freezing. Yeah.
Well, it was also really hard to be at the convention knowing that you guys were all in the city, like, doing fun things. So it was killing me to be in meetings, and I was kinda counting down to when I could get off. I think it was, like, 10 o'clock at night or something when I finally was able to break away. At that point, it had probably been, like I said, 16, 18 hours. You're emotionally just fried, and your social battery is on 0. But Delaney and everybody was at this really cool Mexican restaurant kinda near, Central Park, and I hadn't eaten yet, so I was going no matter what, no matter how bad my feet hurt. So, of course, I'm rushing to get there, and I'm so tired, I put in the wrong address, and apparently, who knew Rosie's Mexican is a chain, I just assumed there was one, and I went all the way across town. I get there, I'm looking all through the restaurant, asking the manager, thinking there's no way I went to the wrong one. And then I text the group, and yes, not only did I go the wrong one, it's like 45 minutes through Manhattan traffic back to Central Park. I almost started crying. I thought, you know what? I can't do this. I'm just going to go to the hotel and crawl into my bed. But I pulled through, and it was just,
I'm
I'll
actually
never forget
shocked
that
that
story.
you showed up. I remember sitting at dinner and I told dad, I was like, text her that we're gonna have a margarita and chips and guac waiting for her when she gets here. Do not let her give up. I had a feeling,
Yeah.
I know the kind of mental condition you're in after a day or a couple of days of ICSC. And I was like, she's gonna cancel on us. Like, I know we're gonna get a call from her in 30 minutes that she's in bed with her feet up watching a show.
Oh, yeah. Believe
And
me, I
I
wanted
was
to.
like, "No, don't let her do it, don't let her do it," but I'm so happy you came. We had the best time, probably
We
4 too
really
many
did.
margaritas, but what else
The
is
margarita
new?
no margarita has ever tasted as good as that one, I will say.
I
But it was
know.
totally worth it, and it was the best way to kinda cap off the year, and now we're into the holidays, and honestly, one of my favorite things about the holiday period is just having a little bit of extra time to reflect because we're always rushing so much.
Totally. for me personally, I'm coming up on about a year and a half of being in retail real estate. And so I've been doing a lot of reflection. And now that it's the end of the year, I've been thinking back, okay, how has it been? What can I change? What can I do better? And it got us talking about some of our first client wins, losses, sometimes when we would get momentum and then just crash and burn.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. It's not for the weak, but it made us
Yeah.
start laughing about all the times that and all the crazy experiences we had from when we first started. And now it's been years for you since you've gone through
Yeah.
that, but I think you can definitely still relate to some of the struggles. Yeah.
And honestly, even though I'm 6 years in the business, I still feel like I grow so much every year. And
Mhm.
when you're going through the year, you don't really feel like you're growing. You feel like you're getting kicked around, all these challenges, ups and downs, emotional roller coaster. You can't really appreciate like what you're actually learning. But at the end of every year, when I look back, I'm always shocked at how much I have learned and thinking the Bretley of last year at this time didn't know a lot of these lessons. I've grown so much basically.
Mhm.
And it is, I think, important to kind of take a moment to reflect, whether you're in real estate or whatever you're doing, just how much ground you have actually covered that year and give yourself some appreciation.
Mhm. Do you remember when you got your first solo client? Do you remember
Yeah.
the feeling of, wow, this is my own client and I'm going to
Yeah.
make money on this and it's all mine? Do you remember
Yeah.
that feeling of just like pure excitement?
It's such a special feeling. And when you first starting, you're typically working with a more senior broker who has their own business. So you're working on their business with them. But I've always really wanted my own accounts that I won ever since I was new, and I think all brokers are like that. There's
Mhm.
something so special about winning it yourself, and yeah, the first client wins are, like, the most special. I remember the first client I technically kinda won on my own. It was a breakfast concept, and I had the number from the owner, somehow I had found it. I called him, asked him if he wanted to expand over voicemail, and I made a ton of cold calls, so I kind of honestly, like, forgot that I called him, and I remember I was leaving a yoga class in the evening, and I get a call from it said, like, the name of the brunch house because that's I had saved it in my phone as that, and I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, he's calling me," and he answered, and he goes, "Yeah, we're looking to expand, like, can you help us?" And I remember just hanging up thinking, "Oh my gosh, did I just win business?" And it was the best feeling and overwhelming and scary all at the same time.
Well, and when you're doing those cold calls, I remember for probably the first year, and I should be putting more time into still doing this, but for at least the first year, I would spend about an hour once or twice a week in our front little conference room where it was quiet and secluded. And I would just go through a list of cold calls. I would just call one operator after another. And those are some tough conversations. I mean, at
Yeah,
25% of the time, you don't even get to speak to the manager or the CEO or the founder, right?
right.
You can't get past an employee or an assistant manager. And then sometimes when you do, you finally make it to the person that you want to speak with, you get shut down immediately or they just hang up on you. I mean, I've had the craziest things happen. And so you know going into it, okay, my return on this is going to be slim, right? I'm probably not
Mhm.
going to get a new account out of this hour of cold calling, but I'm going to try it anyways.
But
And
you never
it's
know. It's kinda like gambling. Like, you
yes,
really don't know, so it kinda keeps you going for
yes.
that one chance that you may hit goals.
And then in your instance, when you do, that's like a renewed momentum to be like,
100.
okay, this works. I got an account from cold calling and this person decided to trust me. Now I have that renewed energy to keep doing it every week or every other day.
Mhm.
So that's a really cool story. I can't believe you got not only an account, but a restaurant, like a breakfast restaurant.
Yeah.
That's like pretty big deal.
Yeah, and I'm sure that it was this way with you, but do you remember when you were winning your first account, just kind of feeling like, "Oh my gosh, they actually are trusting me with their money and the future of their location," and just being over preparing for everything, kind of over stressing, making sure you're perfect. And I still feel like I'm always going to be that way a little bit because I just love my clients and I want them to get the best service. But especially when you're starting out, you really like over prepare and stress, partially because you don't know, am I good enough to do this? You're questioning yourself still.
Mhm.
But do you remember doing that with your early day clients?
Of course. I remember having a similar experience. It wasn't as big of an account as that. It wasn't a restaurant, but I got a call back from somebody and they were like, I'm interested in, potentially doing a second location. And so I set up a 30-minute Zoom call with them to introduce myself and get to know them, get to know their business. And I didn't even have the account and they weren't even certain they wanted to expand. And yet I spent hours and hours and hours prepping and
Yeah,
making sure I knew every question they could potentially ask me. I mean, this was not a grill the broker moment. Like I didn't, that didn't even happen during
right.
the call. But in my head, I was like, if they ask me what the income levels are in this East County submarket, I mean, I've got to know. And
You
I
have
can't
to
be
know.
looking at my notes. And
Yeah.
so, yes, I over prepared and spent hours prepping before the call, and then after the 30 minutes, I was like, "Oh, okay, I didn't use any of that, but it's alright."
Very typical. And then
Yeah.
there's the flip side where maybe they do ask you something you don't know, or maybe you didn't prepare for something, or, there's so many variables. So the flip side is kind of having to stay calm and cool under pressure when you really are crashing out, like you're completely spiraling. I have so many memories of whether it's pitching business or touring or in the early days when I probably did make a mistake or I didn't have the answer and just feeling the cold sweats and feeling like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be fired. I shouldn't even be a broker. I couldn't answer their question on the income level," whatever it may be. But you can't show that. You have to be so calm and really you just have to be confident no matter what.
Yeah. When your insides are just twisting into a knot and
Yeah.
your heart just, like, plummets through your stomach, you're like,
Yeah.
"No, are you kidding me? I don't know the answer to that." But I
It's
feel
the
like
worst feeling.
every experienced broker has said, "You're not gonna know all the answers. There's gonna be questions that are asked of you that you don't know, and what's important is that you answer honestly and truthfully.
Yeah.
Let them know, I'm not 100% sure, but I can absolutely figure out the answer and get back to you."
Right.
But nothing bruises a broker's ego, I feel like, more than that, more than not knowing an answer.
Mhm.
Literally
Especially at the
nothing.
beginning. I think
Yes.
I've gotten to the point where I'm a little bit more comfortable being like, I'm gonna have to find that out for you, but it's never the goal, of course. Like, because we prepare to know everything just in case. And I don't know. It's like you said, it's impossible to know everything. And I
Right.
feel like kind of what I've learned in the past 6 years is that what clients care about is how much you care,
Mhm.
not so much how smart you are. You can have all the facts in the world, and yes, knowledge is so important. But I don't for me, I've never been the smartest person in the room. I'm much more passionate and caring, and that's helped me win so many clients. It's just like, I'm gonna care more than any other broker,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna do my very best, and that goes a long way, I think, winning business and keeping business.
Mhm. That can't be
Exactly.
faked. That's sincere and it's genuine, and every client wants to feel like the most important client. So, can you
100%.
make that evident that you are willing to go the extra mile and maybe you don't have all the answers in your head, but you will make sure that you get them the answers and they're
Mhm.
equipped and they know that you care about them and you're looking out for
Right.
their best interest at the end of the day. So it's such a good point, but I will say it's easier said than done. When somebody asks me something and I don't know the answer, I'm like,
It's
okay,
hard. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
I
hit
need
to
to
the
do better.
ego.
It
I
is.
remember one of the first listings I was put on my first year was a very, very difficult mixed use project where there was apartments and all the restaurant space was underneath the apartments in the back with zero visibility to the street. The
Ugh.
whole project was like built for multifamily, not for the restaurants. So it was extremely difficult no matter who you were to lease this project. And I was brand new. I was terrified of disappointing this landlord. because it was one of my first listings. And I really didn't know that much what I was doing, but I did know we need tenants for the space. And I think that the landlords, they were pretty sophisticated and they knew that I was very green. There was no real hiding that.
Mhm.
But I made, Delaney, I'm not kidding you, so many calls. I called everybody, everybody in town, like about this
Mhm.
space, brokers, tenants. I had like 100 people I called for every leasing meeting. And on it, I did get the project leased, but of those 100 people, sometimes none of them were interested. It wasn't like they were all good leads. But I could tell the reason I stayed on the account was the landlord saw she cares more than anybody else. I cared more than the senior people, and they continued to keep me on the project because of that. And over time, I was able to get at least. And I always think back on that experience as like, for a young person, be sure that you're working harder than everybody else,
Mhm.
especially if you're not as knowledgeable, because that's kind of how you make up for
Mhm.
some of the knowledge.
Agreed. You touched on you couldn't hide the fact that you were kind of green or new. Do you feel like I'm gonna go a little bit off script here. Do you feel like sometime, maybe in your previous years, when you show up to a meeting or you show up to a presentation, do you ever feel like you get viewed differently because you are younger than 90% of the people in the room? Or do you ever feel like
Yes.
that can be a little bit of a disadvantage? Because personally, I feel like I've experienced that and I am new. But sometimes I feel like when I show up, I just based on my youth and my name is new to the marketplace, all of a sudden I'm just slightly at a disadvantage or I'm being seen in a certain way.
Yeah, of course. I think, a perception that you have to overcome.
Yeah.
And what I realized in this business is that you can overcome it, but especially as a young woman, you do have to work a little bit harder.
Mhm.
And I believe that 100% to be true. Like you have to work a little bit harder to get to gain respect because the first impression when you go into a boardroom, especially full of older men, is that you probably don't know anything. And then you kinda have to prove that wrong over the course of the meeting, and especially when you're new and maybe you don't know that much, what I always felt was, like, when I did speak, I was, kind of afraid to speak up because I didn't know if what I was saying was right, first of all, but when I did, I sometimes felt like people would just talk over me or kind of, like, discard my opinion, like, "She obviously doesn't know anything, so we're not gonna really
Mhm.
listen." Now it took 6 years. I feel like I'm more confident now, but it is very difficult because you want to speak up, but you're also really feel the energy in the room of, she's young, she doesn't know anything. And what I would say to young people is like, we have so many ideas and perspectives that those more experienced brokers, they're so in their rut at times from doing
Mhm.
deals for 50 years
Mhm.
that don't be afraid to speak up if you see something new and fresh and different, because you
Mhm.
will catch people's eye that way. Just don't be afraid.
I think
I
that's
think I was
so
afraid at the
wise.
beginning.
I think that's so wise. There are advantages to being young and having a new perspective or coming in with a fresh set of eyes. You can
Yeah,
be more creative and be more open minded. No landlord doesn't want that creativity and that youth and that
mhm,
passion. And I will do anything it takes to get your property leased. I'll work the hardest
100%.
out of anyone in this group because I want to prove it to you that I can do a good job. What landlord's going to turn that down? For the
Right.
most part, I think that's very respected. So there's
Totally.
give and take, pros and cons, but I had to ask because,
I think it's a great question.
yeah, and I feel like that is something that I've experienced and I've never really asked your advice on that being now
Yeah.
6 years in.
So, I remember when I was starting winning clients or getting deals done, even though they were very, very small, because I facilitated them myself or did them myself, they felt like huge emotional wins. And they kind of helped me continue. It basically bought me like another few months of staying in the business because you're so discouraged all the time at the beginning that those little wins kind of propel you forward. So, did you have any wins last year or in the last 18 months that you felt like, oh, that like bought me some more time in the business? It encouraged me so much.
Mhm. Well, it just validates all the hard work that you put in, and I feel like this makes me think of something that dad always tells us, but we hear a lot of no's in our business constantly. You're gonna hear more no's than you will yeses, and that doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong, but the ability to think creatively and think outside the box, just naturally things are your ideas are gonna be shut down at some point, or
Yeah.
things aren't gonna work out. And so getting some momentum, hearing that yes, or finding out that something you've been working on fits and is gonna work and, can move to the next stage is so validating, and all of a sudden it feels like, "Okay, all that work I've put in has been for a reason." And I can continue to have those long nights, extra hours of prep because it was worth it. This one day, it was worth it. And one of my first clients or first solo accounts that I went out and secured on my own, and I remember I'd been touring with them for months, and I was getting super defeated because I felt like I was delivering them what they wanted, and then my client would give me the feedback of, "It just doesn't fit the vibe," or, "I didn't get the right feeling when I walked
Mhm.
in." And as a broker, you wanna throw up your hands and go, "What am I supposed to do with that?" I'm not thinking in the intangible. I need to know, is it too big? Is it
Right.
too small? Is the ceiling
Totally.
too low? I need something tangible to work with and to go back and make sure that I can correct and find you what you do want. And so I was just so discouraged. But I remember after having a sit down meeting with them and kind of explaining to them my perspective and what I'm trying to deliver and what I need from them as far as feedback, and I can't
Mhm.
respond to the vibe doesn't feel right. I don't know what the vibe's
Right. You
supposed
have
to
to
feel
guide
like.
them and let them
Yeah.
know.
And so helping educate them, and in return, they help educate me and show me what they do want so that I can go back and find them the right site. And so I remember having kind of a tough conversation. I was really stressed out about it, and I had, prepared and was nervous about how I was going to deliver the message. And then we had a really good conversation, and shortly after I was able to find them a site that worked for them. And it just felt like, okay, I can do this.
I can
And
do this.
I can have authority, and
Yes.
I can direct my clients and give feedback, because when you're new, all you want to do is say yes. "Well, this doesn't feel
Yeah.
right." Okay, no problem. You don't want to push back and go, "Well, why doesn't it feel right? What's
Yeah.
missing?" You feel like you shouldn't be questioning your client because they gave you business, and that's what matters. And
Yeah.
so
But really,
having the
you're the one.
courage and the experience, yeah, to start going, "Okay, no, this isn't working. I can tell we're not making any progress. Let's sit down, connect, and
Mhm.
realign and figure out how to move forward."
Yeah, that's such a powerful story, and I think you're right. Every time you have one of those little wins, it's kind of like putting one brick on top of another one and slowly building your confidence, and
Mhm.
every little win kinda does that, and I don't think people realize how I don't think patient is even the right word, like, how resilient you have to be because especially with the local, regional, kind of more mom and pop type
Mhm.
tenants, it can take months from a new client of start, stop. This isn't working. You just can't give up. There hasn't been one new client that I've ever won where we've immediately gone out and found a deal and signed it. It's been like, we'll go to lease here, we'll go here and do this. And then things fall apart. And right at the point when you think, I will never make a deal with this client, this was a waste of time, is when they'll move forward on something and you'll get something
Mhm.
done. And partially it just takes, like you said, building that trust and so
Mhm.
you have to be willing to just not give up. I remember that same project that I told you I was working on earlier. One of my most cherished memories as a first client win was at that project. And I was driving on Sunday because every Sunday I would drive the market at like 6 a.m. before there was traffic. And I would look, what tenants can I call? Maybe for this project, maybe for my own accounts. But anyway, I drove past this brunch house called the Nest Cafe and I called the gentleman. I actually sent him a message on like Facebook or something. And he responded. It was a really nice upscale brunch house. Like I have something with brunch houses, apparently. I
You
work with a
love
lot
your
of them.
breakfast food.
Anyway,
You don't even
he
eat
came and he
breakfast food, do
toured.
you?
I don't even really like
To
breakfast food.
expose you. You eat one
I
meal a
know.
day, I
Do
know.
you like my mimosas? Does that count?
Yes, that definitely counts.
Anyway, he came and he toured the project, and we ultimately signed a lease 4 or 5 months later. It was like 5,000 square feet, and I remember going to his restaurant to get the lease signed and to pick up the checks. I mean, this is my first year, and for me, it was a very big deal, not only for the project, but it was a lot of money for me, and I just remember being so excited and texting dad, texting basically anyone who I thought would care and saying, I got this big lease signed today and I didn't need anybody's help on it. I called, I negotiated, I did it myself. And I think that that deal specifically was a huge kind of launch pad for me to feel like I can go and I can call a client and I can take it all the way to the finish line. And I never wanted to look back after that.
That's a huge deal, 5,000 square feet and a restaurant. That's a big
It was a
deal.
big deal. I still can't really believe that it worked or how it worked, but, that's the thing when you call enough people, eventually something sticks,
Yeah,
and it's like
you gotta
you
be
get more good luck
resilient.
the harder you work, yeah.
Yes. That's
But
impressive.
not everything is client wins, obviously, there's a lot of really hard lessons that we learn along the way.
Mhm. But when you do get one and you start to get that momentum, all of a sudden it's like, "Wait, I can keep doing this. I don't wanna stop." I
Yes.
remember you saying at some point, you were like, "I got my first taste of a commission check," and I was like, "I'll never look back. This is what I'm
Yeah,
gonna do, and I'm
nothing
gonna
can hold me back now,
get a
yeah,
million more of these."
it's continued to just it stayed me with me for 6 years, I've never lost kind of that, like, the hunger for that.
Yeah.
And, um, and it helps when the lessons are really hard, and I think it's important to talk a little bit about some of the hard lessons that we've learned, and I think for me, Delaney, I'm curious if this is also a lesson for you, but one of my biggest lessons is that not all clients are good clients.
Yeah, and that kinda touches on what we were saying earlier, especially when you're new and you're working with mom and pops or startups, it's really easy to feel like you have to be a yes man and just say yes to everything and do your absolute best to deliver them what they want, and you will be used and taken advantage of,
Yeah.
and your time will be wasted, and unfortunately, I feel like it's happens to everybody starting in this business, and it's really difficult to, kind of qualify your time because what we have as brokers, our service is our time and our knowledge. We don't really have a
Mhm.
product that we're selling. It's our knowledge and our time. And so when you have these mom and pop startups that can see the hunger and the I'll say yes to everything, they'll see that eagerness inside of you. And I think it can be taken advantage of. And all of a sudden you'll spend 3, 4, 5 months working your butt off for this client only to find out I mean, we've touched on this in other episodes, but only to find out that they're working with someone else, or maybe they weren't sincere about wanting to expand. Maybe they're actually not ready. They just wanted,
Yeah.
your expertise. And
Someone told me when I was first starting in the business that the quality of your career and your business will be determined by the quality of your clients. And I did not understand what that meant at the time. I was kinda like, "Well, what do you mean? I've got a lot of clients." But that was so true. The better your clients are and the less they waste your time,
Mhm,
that's the difference between being very successful versus just really struggling in the business.
mhm.
And I started out it's very hard for me to turn down business, or it was, and I had so many quote unquote bad clients when I was starting because I just was desperate to work with everybody and to try and make something work. And one of the biggest red flags I think I ignored in some of these clients was kind of illusions of grandeur. When anybody promises you, this is going to be super fast, this is going to make you so much money, I'm going to take you out of my yacht, I'm going to write you a huge bonus commission check. Anything that sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. Like that person is not for real. Nothing is easy. Nothing goes that quickly. And so if someone's promising you that or making it seem like they're going to make your career, you should double click on that. And that happened to me. And I wasted a lot of time with this person. And I kind of knew in my gut, this is not a good client. But because of all the things he was saying, I kept trying, thinking maybe there's a chance he's for real. But he's not. He wasted a lot of my time. And that was a really valuable lesson.
Well, and to kind of play devil's advocate, because I wanna be transparent about the barriers to entry in this business. When you're starting out, you kinda have to say yes to those people. You
Yeah,
can't come in 2, 3 months, 6 months into the business and be turning down people that are saying they wanna work with you.
correct.
Yes, there can be red flags that maybe you're like, let me ask somebody a little more experienced on, if they think this is real," but you don't wanna say no. You can't. You have to literally say yes
Mhm.
to everything. And I've had people, colleagues in the industry that are, 20, 30, 40 years into their career say stuff like, "Oh, I have more accounts than I know what to do with. Let me refer you some business or let me throw you some of these tenant accounts that I can't work with and maybe you can help them." When you're new, it's like Christmas Day. It's like, "Yes, I'll take any lead, anything you can give me,
Yeah,
and I will like work as hard as I can to make it a deal." And to your point, it's really difficult to learn to kind of qualify your clients and understand who's going to waste your time and who's sincere in their business endeavors and who's really going to expand and open up another location. But it
that's a
takes
great
a lot
point.
of time. Yeah, because when you're early on, you have to say yes to everybody. And so I feel like I'm sometimes on the cusp of that where because I have Solvent, I have some of these really, really great accounts, but I'm also still a year and a half in. So I'm still very much saying yes to most opportunities that are presented to me. And so I think as you kind of get from years 1 to 3 or beyond, you kind of start to weed out some of those
Mhm.
time waster clients. And then you can start working with more qualified brands that have systems in place.
I think that's a great point, Delaney, because I did say yes to so many people and I worked so hard and only maybe 50% of those people were good clients. Because I was working on so much, I ended up making a lot of deals. And I didn't make a lot of deals, but because there was such a high volume, I was able to do very well in the beginning. And I think if I was hiring a young person on my team or bringing someone in, I would want to see them have that hunger in pursuing everything and saying, "No, I'm gonna figure out a way to make this work." To me, that is a good sign in a young person. Of course, you don't have the knowledge 12 months, 6 months in, who's qualified and who's not. I mean, that
Mhm,
takes years.
mhm.
So, I would rather see a young person jumping in, trying to work on everything than I would sitting back saying, "Oh, I don't know if this client is, good enough for me," kind of in a way like thinking they're too good for someone.
Mhm.
I I don't wanna ever get to that point in my business, no matter how many years. I always want to be humble in that way and realize that, like, a client is a client, and they don't have to
Absolutely.
be a national brand, they can be a local, they can be whatever. There's a lot of great operators that aren't national accounts.
Absolutely.
So, it's just something to be aware of. It's a lesson you will learn, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're doing anything wrong.
Totally. I think it's a natural part of the process and no better way to learn it than to go right through it
Yeah.
and fall on your face and get back up and start over.
Yes.
So we've all been there. And some of the most rewarding and most incredible deals in your career will come from some of those startups or mom and pops or
Totally.
local in your city. I mean, there's nothing more fulfilling than seeing a dream of
Mhm.
theirs come true for the first
Yeah,
time. So,
100%. One of the other things, I think we touched on this before, was just kind of a lesson that I've always learned is that, especially when you're starting out, you don't win by being the smartest person. You win by working the hardest and hustling the
mhm,
most. And
mhm,
and the simple things like answering every single one of your calls or sign calls on a property, getting to know tenant stories, asking questions, follow up. Oh my gosh, we'll have a whole episode on that.
mhm.
But those are the things, those are the kind of the bread and butter. Like, if you can't do those things, you will probably never grow as a broker. And yes, as you get older in the business, you may not answer every single one of your sign calls, or maybe not as quickly as you did. But I think as a young broker, the way to stand out is to be really, really meticulous and make every client feel like they're very important.
It shocks me to this day how many brokers don't return phone calls or don't return
Me too.
voicemails. I can't even understand how they do business, but to each their own. And that was something that was nailed into me from the first day, from you, from dad, from Solvin, is regardless of who's calling you, you give them the time of day and you give them respect and you answer their questions to the best of your knowledge. And you always call back and follow up and make sure that you're giving each client or each account your full attention, your full focus. And even something as simple as emails, I feel like that's in brokerage, everybody's kind of got their own style of emailing. Some people are
Yeah,
one-liners, 2 words, no punctuation, no greeting. And everybody has their own way of doing business. But if you're emailing a principal or someone of importance, I always think it matters to go the extra mile and greet them, check in, "How was your holiday?" I mean, it's little things that I think people really, really notice, and
100%.
communication
Yeah.
is everything in our business.
And back to your point about just people not answering their phones, that is such a true. I am blown away all the time. People just don't respond to email, to phone calls, and I have like a tenant for their project, and it's just like they'll respond 3 weeks later. And honestly, ever since I started in the business, I that actually kind of made me happy. It kind of fueled me because it made me
Of
realize
course
like,
it
oh, the
did.
competition is so low. Like there's no reason I can take this person's business. If they don't return calls, it's not someone who to me, it just showed, like, a void in the marketplace. If
Mhm,
90% of brokers don't return calls, you can stand out that much more by being someone that does return calls, and that's what their clients and your clients are gonna value. So it to me, it was kind of, like, disappointing, but also, like, a good thing because
mhm,
I think it creates, like, an opportunity for people who are gonna do better
mhm.
to kinda rise up.
And Sully and I have gotten a lot of good feedback from that. I'm sure you have as well in Dallas and in Texas, but we've had clients that express their gratitude for the level of communication and the fact that they can get a hold of us at any time and we'll respond and we're there and we're present and we're fully engaged in meetings.
Yeah.
It's little things and it seems like wow, the standard's really low, but your
Right.
clients will notice that, and maybe they won't all thank you for it or they won't all speak up and say something, but they're noticing. And if
Uh-huh.
they're working with other people or they have in the past or they will in the future work with other people in the marketplace, they'll see that there is a very distinct difference. And I know Sully and I have gotten a lot of really, really kind feedback about that, where people are like,
Yeah.
wow, we've never had brokers communicate like this or communicate this much or this transparently. And I'm sure
And
you
to your
have as
point,
well.
when those people are ever looking to make a change, and almost everybody does, with their brokerage services, people will remember you were the person that called them back. You're the person that followed up. You're the person that did those little things. And it may not pay off dividends the next day or the next week. But if you consistently do that for years, by year 3 or 4 in your business, you're going to be shocked at how much business you have and how many people actually want to work with you.
Totally. I think to close us out for this episode today, we want to each highlight a brand that we're currently obsessed with and are using, loving constantly. So, Bretley, do you have a brand or a company that you want to highlight today?
Yes, I do. Thank you for asking. So, something that I really want to call out that I've been loving are these Hydra Boost under eye patches. And I'll hold up a picture for anyone who's watching on camera. But this is from Blue Mercury, which is where I get a lot of my skincare. This is a Hydra Jelly 24-hour under eye mask. I sleep in them because, as you guys know by now, we're very busy. We're running a million miles an hour. We're not always getting enough sleep. And these absolutely work wonders. They are very clinical, clean, no nonsense. They're developed by Blue Mercury and they kind of bridge the gap between medical grade skincare and everyday skincare. So they're very accessible to everyone, but you also get incredible results. And they're named after the molecular weight of hyaluronic acid. So it's very subtle,
Oh,
but
I
it
didn't
is
know
based
that.
in science.
You got me those last time I was in Dallas and sent me home with a pack of them, and I still use them to this day. I'm obsessed with them. They're so
I gift
good.
them to all my sisters. I just think they're the best gift for anyone, but especially like a busy working young woman who wants to look her best,
Yeah.
but doesn't always feel her best.
Well, and they
I don't
actually
know, it's just
work.
great.
Like,
They
how
work.
many eye patches have we used that look cute and maybe they feel good and they're a little bit hydrating? But those I wake up and I'm like, "Oh, my under eye bags and
Yeah,
dark circles are gone." They really
yeah, it's
work.
like I slept 10 or 12 hours instead of just 4. No one will ever know.
Exactly.
So go check
Mm,
them out.
do you know so they obviously have a website, and then they sell in, like, skincare stores? Like, we couldn't find them in Sephora, right? Or could we? Do you
I
know?
don't think they're at Sephora. I think Blue Mercury on their website is probably the best place to get
Okay.
them.
Okay.
It may be possible to buy them on Amazon, but they would be a little bit more overpriced on Amazon.
Right.
But they're very reasonably priced, a little more expensive than some other brands, but it's definitely worth the money that you're spending with the results that you'll see. So we'll drop a link in the show notes of anywhere you can purchase these under eye masks.
And I know they're in Nordstrom because I went in New
You've seen
York
them. Okay.
and literally bought a pack for myself. So
There you go. Yeah.
they're in Nordstrom. And then the brand that I want to highlight today is Shiseido. Shiseido, I think is how you say it.
Love it.
Forgive me if I'm saying this incorrectly, but showing it to anyone watching on YouTube, it's a Japanese skincare brand. They're actually one of the oldest and most influential beauty companies in the world. They've been around forever. They're a big player in skincare as well as cosmetics. And it's just a very minimalistic balance, just so good for your skin. I have kind of sensitive skin, and so I'm always searching for skincare brands that are don't have 50,000 extra ingredients that I don't want. And this specific item is their clarifying cleansing foam. They also have a sunscreen, and they have a couple of different lotions like eye lotion and for fine lines and wrinkles. I will break my wallet buying everything from this brand because I'm so obsessed with it. It's amazing. And anyways, it was founded in Tokyo, and has now just kind of like taken over. You can find it in Sephora. I believe it's in Ulta, although I'm not 100% on
Probably.
that. But you can also get it on Amazon. I have
So
since told Liberty, our sister, about it, and she in New York actually went and picked up a bottle of their face wash because she used mine in the shower and was like, "This changed my life. I have to have one." So
just saying a lot because Liberty's a skincare snob and
she
she does
is.
not use anything. She didn't even want to use my eye mask until I got her hooked on them, but she's very picky. But wait, for someone like me, I've actually never used that brand.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for someone who's just wants to get like a staple product and kind of get a feel for the brand before purchasing everything? What should they start with?
I feel like because we all need sunscreen, start with the sunscreen. I feel like most people have kind of a tried and trusted face wash that they're comfortable with, and it can be kind of disrupting to your skin to completely switch brands. And I get that for somebody who has kind of sensitive skin. So the sunscreen is one of the best I've ever tried. They have one that's tinted, and then they have a really translucent, clear sunscreen that is like buttery
Mm,
soft, and it has, I think, 40 or 50 SPF. It's really good SPF. I put it on every day, and it just gives you that like glassy,
yes.
hydrated look without like clogging your pores, which I have problem with sunscreen. I feel like a lot of them are really thick and they clog your pores, or they kind of make your makeup look clumpy on top. And this one is just like so smooth and soft, and it's like an extra layer of like moisturizer. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I
Well, silly
recommend all of
me,
it.
I do have a birthday coming up, so I think
I
you know
know.
what I want to try now. And
That's very true. My
I'm
little
obsessed with
February
skincare.
girl. It's coming up.
Yes.
So tell me really quick, what do you, because I know you're with Lily in Park City, right?
Yes, our other
What,
youngest sister, Lily,
yes.
for those of you who don't know.
Any like crazy fun things on the itinerary for the rest of the week? Do you guys have any plans or any ideas of stuff you want to go see?
Well, we've already done a lot of really fun things. One of the things that was a little disappointing is that this is their first year out of like 20 where they haven't had any snow. So there is some snow in the very
Got it.
tops of the mountains, but I came here specifically for a white Christmas.
Right.
And it's not white at all. And so we were a little bit disappointed, but me and Lily, as you know, have always shared a love of wild horses, wild Mustangs. And I actually owned one when I was growing up. And we actually went to a wild Mustang ranch this morning. I came straight from the ranch to record. And It was so amazing. This woman
What?
rescues these mustangs who have been traumatized and hurt in the wild and basically gives them this wonderful, happy life. And honestly, I think it was the highlight of the trip for both Lily and I, just being able to be with the horses and
Oh my
we bonded
gosh,
with
how
them.
sweet.
Yeah,
Did
and
you
they each
just
have
get to go in the
stories.
pastures and, like, hang out
Yeah,
with them and pet them? No, you didn't ride
we got
any of them,
we
right?
couldn't ride. They're still wild. They'll never be trained. That's part of when they come here. They just the lady wants them to be wild and be in their natural habitat, but they're very sweet. We're able to pet them. And she was telling us the stories, each of them, kind of where they came from. Some of them
My
went through abuse,
god.
some didn't, but it was really, really special.
That is so cute. Wait, I'm really jealous. I feel like I always get left out of the horse girl group because
I
it's
know.
just always been you and Lily, and that's totally
I know.
fine. But I remember going to the library when I was little and wanting so bad to be a part of your guys' horse girl group that I would have mom take me to the horse section and I would pick out horse
Oh,
books.
Delaney,
No,
I
this is
didn't
a
know
true
that.
story, and I remember sitting in the back of our SUV with Lily one day on the way to dinner. Imagine 6 kids packed into this car. There's not an inch of privacy, and I was in the very back seat with Lily, and I had my library book, and I was turning it page by page, and I was reading the names of the horses, and I was like, "Well, what do you think about this type of
In your
horse?"
opinion.
And yeah, and I was voicing my opinion at the same time and trying to just bridge the gap so hard because I wanted her so bad to think that I was a
It's an
horse girl.
exclusive group, Delaney, come on.
It's hard to get into that group. Holy shit.
Yeah,
You guys are
yeah,
yeah. But I do love
but it's
horses, but I'm not as
yeah.
I know. I know,
No,
I'll
but
stand
that's
my
probably
right.
been the highlight of the trip, for sure.
That's awesome. I'm so jealous. I'm glad you guys are having fun. Well, can't wait for us all to be together again. Thank you so
Yes, we
much,
will soon,
everyone.
and thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. You can follow us Spotify, our website, anywhere you get your daily podcast, and we'll see you again next Friday for another episode of Brick and
See you
Bread.
next Friday. Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year.